Okay, Anthropic just made the 1 million context window generally available for Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6. Now, if you're thinking Google had 1 million context windows since the beginning, so what's the big deal here? You will be right. In fact, even OpenAI now offers 1 million context window for their GPT-5.4. But there are two things which makes this release very interesting. The first is the pricing structure Anthropic is introducing. Second is the retrieval accuracy. We haven't seen these numbers before. Okay, so on pricing, now you're going to be paying flat pricing irrespective how many tokens you're using. So 900,000 tokens is going to be billed exactly the same as 9,000 tokens, which is a great deviation from the pricing tiers that other frontier labs uses for long context. Now, I want to show you the price comparison in a minute, but this means you're going to be able to send 6 times more data. So for example, you can send 600 images or PDF pages, which is up from 100 pages with the previous context window. Now, this is available on all platforms, including Microsoft Azure Foundry and Google Vertex AI. This is a different thing because usually Anthropic releases these features on their own API, but not on some of these third-party platforms. So it's a good change to see. Okay, so first let's look at the price comparison. Traditionally, Anthropic has been the most expensive models, and they still are if you're using less than 200,000 tokens. But if you start using more than 200,000 tokens, it starts to change. Because OpenAI is charging almost 2 times for input tokens and 1.5 times for output tokens. Same is the case with Gemini, but Anthropic is now charging a flat rate for any token, irrespective of how much context you're using. So if you're using more than 200,000 tokens, it actually becomes very lucrative given that the retrieval accuracy is the best in class. And this is important because having long context does not mean context reliability. It used to be pretty much a gimmick so far because as you increase the context window, we started seeing the loss in the middle phenomena. Gemini has been offering 1 million context window from the beginning, but normally the usable range was in 150 to 200,000 tokens. With this, it has changed a lot. Now, if you look at 256,000 tokens, these new Opus and Sonnet models are state of the art at almost 90% retrieval accuracy for 8 needles in the haystack. Now, traditionally, we had long context models, but having long context does not mean reliability. The usable context window is usually around 200 and 250,000 tokens, even for a 1 million context window. This is an example coming out of the original Claude 2.1 200,000 context window. And as you can see, it was pretty bad. The useful window was probably around 20,000 tokens in this case. Now, in this case, Anthropic is measuring the performance on MRCR version 2, 8 needle in the haystack. And we have come a long way. On 256,000 tokens, these new Claude models are state of the art. The next best one is GPT-5.4. Google Gemini 3.1 is about 60%. Now, the thing is, if you increase the context window to 1 million tokens, you see some really drastic differences. So that 60% goes to almost 26% for Gemini. That 80% goes to 36%. In case of the new Claude models, it actually retains its performance. At 1 million context window, you have about 18% reduction for Opus 4.6, which is actually really impressive because this is still usable. Okay, so here's how the needle in the haystack benchmark actually works. You have your full context window. You put different facts at different length in that context window, and then you ask the LLM to retrieve those facts. Traditionally, people used one fact in the context window, but now we're seeing a lot more complex scenarios. For example, this is 8 needles in the haystack, so 8 simultaneous different facts, which is probably more representative of real world use cases. So what exactly does this mean for you as a developer? Now, irrespective of whether you are using Claude Code or the Claude API, you're going to start seeing less and less compactions, because compactions is one of the biggest problem. It's kind of like short-term and long-term memory loss because your agents forgets everything. One company reported 15% less compactions with this new 1 million context window. Other companies reported that they were using far fewer tokens. Now, with this release, I think even multi-round agentic performance should improve because you're not going to be hitting those context window limits, and especially given it has really good retrieval accuracy even at long context window. And I think for long running agentic tasks, it also makes Claude Opus a more favorable option because the premium is not that much at all anymore. You're getting a huge performance boost in terms of retrieval at a marginal price increase. Okay, one last thing. With this long context window, does this mean we don't need RAG anymore? And the answer is no, we still need RAG. There are two things. First, most of your documents are going to be longer than 1 million context window. Second, the pricing still is pretty aggressive, especially if you're using less number of tokens. That is going to be more effective, which RAG or retrieval augmented generation enables. Third is that using long context means higher latency, which is not practical in most real-time applications. So you will still need some sort of retrieval methods. They may not be primarily semantic retrieval, like embedding based, but there are a combination of different things that you can use along with this new updated context window for better retrieval accuracy. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.